So welcome back to part 2 of oil weathering. So we left off last time. We had just applied the pin dot filter to the hull. I've also subsequently added the same filter in exactly the same method to the turret. And to prepare for this step, because I was asked a question by a few of the lads in the comments of the last video about having layers react to each other. So before we even think about laying our pin washes and oil washes in general on top of the dot filter, we have to seal each layer. So this has gotten, once again, 2 more coats of gloss varnish, as again you can see the reflective quality of the surface, and the turret has yet to get its gloss varnish. And the reason why we do this acts as a barrier between each oil layer once this has been allowed to fully dry, of course, and this stops the solvent from each layer reacting and reactivating the layer that you're laying down, as well as the layer you placed before it. And what will happen is both will mix together and you'll get a kind of a messy soup, if you will, that will just undo all your work. So ensure that you seal each layer with gloss or clear. Some of you use matte, whatever you're using, whatever your sealant is, keep applying it between layers, allowing each layer to fully dry and making sure that the gloss or the varnish or whatever has fully cured. So we're going to be applying pin washes to things such as rivet heads. Then we'll be using the same method for doing panel line washes to help define well seams, hatches and other areas that have recessed detail, again just to help define the tank. It's a way of helping the eye kind of differentiate between various elements of the tank without having to use colour modulation, because I know it's not for everyone. And then we're going to be making up an oil wash to place on the stowage, and oil washes behave a little bit different than acrylic washes that we'll get into. So once again, I have everything laid out. So we're going back to our 2 trusty tea light holders. So they're going to be our 2 pallets. We have a couple of brushes. So I have an old brush for mixing the oil and solvents together. I have a wide old bristled brush for applying the wash for the stowage. And I have a relatively fine tip brush for doing the panel and pin washes. And of course we have our white spirit, and this time we're going to be using, for the stowage, burnt umber, again from the Rooney graduate line. And then for our pin washes and panel lines, we're going to be using a colour from the 502 Octilong range, which is Octilong 015, and it is shadow brown. Great colour. I've had this for a couple of years and it is absolutely amazing. I use it in most of my armour builds and aircraft builds. It's probably one of the best colours I have. You could subsequently make this colour up if you don't have this by mixing lamp black and burnt umber together and making a very dark kind of brown, reddish brown colour, and you'll get this. So in order to make our washes, we're going to have to make a relatively well diluted mixture. So I'm going to take our burnt umber, I'm going to place it in one pallet, about that much, don't need too much. And then we're going to take our shadow brown. Again, we don't need too much, as oil colours are a hell of a lot more vibrant than acrylics, so we don't want too much pigment, and ensure that we keep relatively a high amount of solvent. So again, our white, we'll take our white spirit. I'm going to apply about that much, so there's quite a bit in this. That should be fine, and that should be enough for the entire tank. Then ensure that we give our mixtures a very good mix, making sure that the pigments do break down and we do get very rich colours. So we can see our burnt umber, very vibrant colour, as we can see, very red brown. And if you find this is too intense on the model, we can always add more white spirit, but this should be fine. And then just give my brush a quick clean, so I don't want to mix the colours too much. It's not going to make much of a difference because both of them are quite dark colours to begin with. And then we'll take our shadow brown, exactly the same, and we can immediately see what dark consistency this colour is. It's very, very intense. If anything, we probably have to add a little bit more white spirit to the mix because it's a very intense colour. And again, ensuring I mix all this very well. So there are our two washes mixed up. Very simple and didn't require too much pigment to do this. So I would recommend, or should I say oil pigment. I'd also say keep the consistencies at least 30% oil to about 70%, well naturally 70% of your solvent. Otherwise the colour will be too intense and you won't be able to control it as well. So we're going to begin by adding our panel washes, and how we're going to do this is very similar to how we did the pin wash, or should I say the dot filters. We're going to prepare the surface by moistening our work surface again with white spirit. So I've decanted a small amount of white spirit into another tea light cup. And see, by using the gloss varnish, it also helps the capillary action take hold. Now you can see I'm being a little bit messy. That's fine, because when this dries we can come back with a brush moistened in spirit and remove any excess. And you can just see how the pigment gets pulled along the various panel lines and what have you. And it's a very easy way to add definition to your model. And if we add too much like I have here, and I've added slightly too much here to the splash ring, so I'm just going to clean off my brush and then use my brush like a sponge just to basically soak up any of the excess. Nice and simple. You know, these were fighting machines after all. They did get grimy. If anything, they'd be more grimy than scratched or battle damaged. So you can be a little heavy with this as long as you don't go too overboard, and try to make sure you keep it balanced and consistent throughout the model. So again, I'm going to come up now here to the periscope mounts and just put this in. I don't mind going in heavy and messy in certain places. It just helps break up the monotony of the colour somewhat, as well as give us an idea of griminess. See, what you'll find with oil pigment is it's much finer than acrylics, so it also suits doing the quote-unquote sludge wash. That I don't really do this. I don't do sludge washes on historical models. I think they suit science fiction ones a bit better, just for the simple fact being is the effect can be a little bit exaggerated. And however, with an acrylic one for doing a sludge wash, it can be a little bit too intense and unmanageable. However, with an oil wash, sludge washes are far more effective, in my opinion, of course. So again, I'm going to just literally touch my brush into the corner to pick out the inner ring of my radio pot here, the fatal. Same here on the hinges. I'm going to build that up here a little bit, as there will be a bit of grease on that and we'll get grimy. Come back to the well seams and building up along the well seam. It looks a bit messy right now. However, we can always come back once this has dried or even semi-dried and clean it back up. So we have a lot of flexibility with this. So we can also put our wash or our pin wash into the cast markings. So we put them in just to make those pop out. So it can be a very effective way to draw attention to certain details. So again, we're going to take our shadow brown, and again I've prepared the surface with just a small amount of white spirit, and I'm just going to literally put the tip of the brush into the wash solution, so that case I'm not picking up too much, and I'm just going to go a little bit too much, I think. Just going to pick this out. Now, as you can see, I've put too much in, but not to worry, I can come back once this is dried, or at least dried to the touch, with a brush moistened in white spirit and clean away any excess, which I will do because it's a little bit too intense. I put down a little bit too much white spirit, and it kind of went all over the place, but not to worry. So again, I'm just going to put that in quite heavy, and we can come back later and clean that up, which is that's like the beautiful thing about oil washes. It allows us to do this. I'm also going to trace along the edge of the driver's hood, just to add a bit of definition. And once again, it's a bit messy, but we're going to come back and clean it. Also, we'll pick out this weld seam. Again, it's a bit messy, but not to worry. So now we can start moving on to other kind of raised details. So basically anywhere where there's like a ridge, like again like the splash guard for the turret ring. So I'll just prepare the surface again by just moistening it with white spirit. We can also pick out the hinges for the engine deck. Again, just preparing the surface with a tiny amount of white spirit. We don't want this to be too damp, or we'll spread the wash on an uncontrolled manner. And we're going to get very messy. Again, I just need to mix my pigment with the back of my brush in a little pot, because it will separate from time to time, like I said. And I literally just will, so I'll pick some of the rivets, and I will just literally touch the brush to each rivet, pick them out. And again, exactly the same on the other side. You can also, by just placing your brush against any raised detail, you can basically just trace the outline. And again, it just helps give a sense of definition and depth, while yet giving a kind of realistic, kind of grimy feel. Okay, so we've allowed the wash to dry to the touch. So now we're going to do a bit of cleanup work. So you can see along this area here that there's been quite the large build-up of excess oil. So even though this is dry to the touch, it won't budge. If I just take a brush and dip it into clean white spirit, I can begin to reactivate and clean away the excess. so it removes it immediately, and you can basically clean up any area or blend any area that you're not happy with. Same with the area just above the tracks. I got a bit too much there, so I'm going to blend that back up towards the seam line. Again, cleaning my brush every couple of minutes just to stop the oil from building up. Same here on this panel line here is a bit too much. I'm just going to pull that back. And it's as simple as that. It's a very easy method to recover. And we'll do this along any of the edges that we feel is too messy, or we've put oils in an area we don't want them. So now with the areas that we wanted to clean up all done and out of the way, now we can start moving on to the stowage. So now we're going to start switching to our burnt umber. And as you can see, the pigment has separated from the solvent. So I'm just going to give it a quick mix with the back of my brush. I'm going to use an old brush to apply a rather generous mixture of this wash to the stowage, and we'll start giving it a bit of depth. We're also going to put a bit of the burnt umber mixture into the spare tracks here, because of the red-brown quality. It does give us a slight hint of rust that you would get on spare track links, because they're not in motion, so they're not in friction with the ground. That would rub them clean of any rust buildups that you would get. So there you have my very simple methods for using oils to weather 1/35th or actually any armor or aircraft models using oils. I use a pretty much a similar technique in both aircraft and armor. The only difference is when I'm doing a dot filter on an aircraft, I will wipe or blend the dot filter in the direction of the airflow. It does give a very nice effect that way. And then the panel lines and whatever type of pin wash and panel line washes we use are exactly the same way for any John Europe model. And as you can see, the effect, even though it's somewhat harder to see because of the gloss finish, does make the various hatches, rivet heads, various other types of raised or engraved detail pop, and that is exactly what we want. And also it's a very friendly or forgiving method to use to get a good result out of your models, as long as you gloss coat in between layers, so that in case something goes wrong, you can undo the layer you're not happy with without undoing any of your work. So I really hope, should I say, you found this tutorial useful. Please comment, rate and subscribe as always, lads, and stay tuned. I have more videos on various sort of Sherman builds on the way. You'll probably see clips from this video used in the weathering and final reveal for this Firefly from the Irish Guards that I'm doing for Market Garden, though the video will also show the actual mud and other types of weathering I'm going to be doing. So thanks for watching, guys, as always. Stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye bye.